Once upon a time, in a faraway kingdom, there lived a terrible dragon. It lived in a lake outside the city walls, and every week it forced the king to give it a human sacrifice, or it would rampage through the town. One week, the dragon demanded the king's daughter, Princess Sabra. The king had no choice but to agree. As they were walking to the lake, she met a wandering knight named George. He had traveled all over the world, helping people in need. When he heard about the princess's sacrifice, he knew he had to help. The dragon was huge. Its scales were hard as iron, and its eyes burned red hot. George's sword barely made a dent in its tough hide. Just as the dragon was about to swallow him, George remembered a trick his old mentor had taught him. Quickly, he tied a rope around one of the dragon's horns. Then, with a well-aimed kick, he tripped the dragon and made it fall. The dragon struggled to get up, but the rope held tight. George ran to the struggling beast and plunged his sword deep into its chest. With a final roar, the dragon died. George had defeated the monster, but he hadn't bargained for what happened next. The dragon was so huge that when it fell, it created a giant splash. Before George knew it, the water was rising, and he was being swept away. Luckily, the princess had been watching from afar, and when she saw the knight struggling in the water, she jumped in to save him. Together, George and Sabra made it to shore. They were exhausted, but they were alive. As a reward for his bravery, the king offered George half of his kingdom and the princess's hand in marriage. But George had no interest in power or money. He simply smiled and asked for a boat so he could continue his travels. And that's the story of how St. George and the dragon became friends. The end.